Welcome to day 3 of the summit with Cheryl Meyer, talking about the Seasonal Solidarity Summit, making certain it stays the most wonderful time of the year. The holidays can be a joyous and a lonely and depressing time of the year. Seasonal Solidarity is all about helping you to enjoy the holiday, stress-free, worry-free, and pain-free. Throughout the summit, each day, we will be providing tips on how to manage and cope this holiday season and beyond. When I was first diagnosed with chronic pain syndrome and fibromyalgia, I didn't have much of a support system. No one I knew could relate to my struggles of chronic pain, fibro fog, sleep apnea, and pretty much everything else that comes along with it. There was no support system in place to deal with these issues, and I vowed to treat others how I would have liked to have been treated. I created Fibro Patient Education and Support Organization to fill that void. Our mission is to educate and improve the quality of life for patients diagnosed with fibromyalgia and other chronic pain conditions. And our vision is to talk, listen, learn, help conquer chronic pain, spread awareness, and implement sustainable programs that enable patients to live a fulfilling life, mind, body, and spirit. So on today's show, I would love to welcome Cheryl Meyer. Cheryl Meyer, she is a health coach who will inspire you to take charge of your life to be healthy and reduce your pain. 5 years ago, Cheryl got autoimmune disease. She wants her journey back to wellness to help you in your journey. She is now a full-time integrative nutrition health coach, anti-toxin advocate, and author of the award-winning book, It Feels Good to Feel Good. Learn about toxins, reduce inflammation, reverse inflammation, and feel great again. And her book is available on Amazon, and I just happen to have a copy of her book with me today. It is an amazing book. Her specialties include autoimmune disease and inflammation, pain, sensitivities, eating and living clean, weight loss, stress, life balance, and removing toxins from all areas of your life. And Cheryl will help you find the answers you need for wellness. And she's also known as the Health Muse. So welcome, Cheryl. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm terrific, NECIE. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. So Cheryl, thank you for providing me with a copy of your book. I absolutely love this book. When I was reading through your book, I thought, oh my goodness, this is my story. Cheryl is talking exactly to me. You know, when you shared about the foods you eat, what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating, you know, the various toxins in our foods and how they affect our bodies, and you know, the other information you shared about your own experience, I thought, my goodness, you know, somebody gets it. This is me. This is my story. This is my journey. So it's wonderful to connect with you.
Thank you. I actually wrote the book to be the manual that I wish I had had when I got sick, because my doctor certainly didn't understand what was going on with me and told me it was all in my head. And I knew it wasn't in my head. I was not going to accept that. So I started researching, and everything I discovered, I put into that book to help others.
Wonderful. So tell me, if you wouldn't mind, about your journey. You know, when did it begin, and how did you get to from where you used to be to where you are now?
It actually began a long time ago, but I didn't know it. It's all about toxic load. So little things started happening to me. My underarm deodorant either made me blister or made me rash. Then my mascara made my eyes crazy. So I went searching for a mascara. I also went searching for an underarm deodorant and found a wonderful one from a woman who has lupus. There are many of us out there. So then I had to find a mascara that didn't bother me. Then I started being really bothered by fragrance. and I couldn't breathe when I was around fragrance. Then one morning I woke up and my lips and my tongue were swollen, and it
Mm.
ended up after a lot of just detective work that it was fabric softener that was creating that response in me. What I didn't know was that my toxic load was building, and the more that it built, the more things were annoying my body. So first I got diabetes type 2 diabetes. That is now considered an autoimmune disease. But I still didn't connect the dots that this was all the toxic load building. And then one morning I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I hurt from head to toe. And I knew something was very wrong with me. So that's when I went to the doctor, and she said, yes, there's nothing wrong with you. Your tests are all fine. But mind you, this was also a doctor that missed I had diabetes. I had to go back several times and get her to take the sugar test on my blood. So I sought out a practitioner that might help me. And I ended up with someone who is a naturopath, and he was the first step in me getting better. But I went to him for weight loss, and I was with him about 2 months, and he said, Cheryl, you're a very sick girl, and I don't know what to do for you. And that's when I decided I owned my own health. I was going to do my own research and find out what the heck was going on with my body. At the time, there were many symposiums being run by a new paradigm in medicine called functional medicine. And I listened to 20 of them. Each one had like 10 or 20 episodes. And I didn't know what I was looking for, but they all seemed to come to the conclusion that it all started with leaky gut. So I thought, okay, what causes leaky gut? Because I thought I had autoimmune disease. And if I did, it started with leaky gut. So I found out that leaky gut is stress. I had my own business, so stress was probably a big player. I used to think stress was great because it propelled me forward to get done what I needed to do, but I was being chased by a lion or a tiger every hour of every day, so it accumulated. The second thing was sensitivities. I had had some allergies when I was born. I actually have a joke that I popped out allergic to Pittsburgh. And I remember them oiling the streets to keep the coal dust and the steel dust down. And my parents decided I would never make it to adulthood if they did not leave Pittsburgh. So when I was 4, we moved to California. And then it didn't rear its ugly head until my 30s, when it started to accumulate with the different things that were going on. At any rate, I knew I had allergies. I didn't know what sensitivities were. So I went back to my doctor, and she did allergy tests. And the only thing that I was allergic to was the strip that held the test on my back. So that did not solve my issue. So then I started studying more to discover that sensitivities are very different from allergies. And I took 3 different panels of sensitivity tests with my functional doctor and discovered I have 18 different foods that I call my kryptonite. And by eliminating those, I felt so much better right from the start. It wasn't the entire answer, but it did start to alleviate the pain fairly quickly. So I joke that I'm like an onion. Every layer that my functional doctor takes off of me has something underneath it that has to get fixed, but she's a miracle worker, and I feel 80% better. And we just discovered what she thinks is now my core issue, which is I have 3 toxic molds in me. So I start the detox for those on Sunday. Now, I skipped over, what's the difference between a functional doctor and a conventional doctor? In my opinion, a conventional doctor wants you to be a round peg that fits into a round hole, and then out pops a pill. A functional doctor is a medical doctor. Mine graduated from Yale. But she got sick. Most of the people I was listening to in these symposiums had gotten sick, which was why they were out there spreading the information. So she got sick. So she went back to get certified as a functional practitioner. A functional practitioner can give you pills, but what they want to find out is what is the core cause of what's going on in your body. And so she has been very inventive, looking at my composition and my body from all kinds of different angles. And each step has been a step to make me feel better and regain my health. So it's really been, if I was young, I'd go back and become a biochemist. I'm fascinated by all of this, but finding the right functional doctor who can, like a detective, go looking for your core cause of your illness is, honest to God, she's a miracle worker.
That's awesome. And you know, our stories are a little bit similar. I actually also treated with a functional medicine doctor, and it was my functional medicine doctor who, you know, told me that I was type 2 diabetic. And it was my functional medicine doctor, just like you, those tests that tell you all about your specific allergies. And the one thing that I want to mention is that it's not like, you know, sure, when you go to, let's say, your primary care doctor, well, they'll just stick you with the skin testing. You know, it's not like that. It was totally
No, it's
above
not.
and beyond, you know, that typical skin testing. And then he gave me, as you mentioned, a computerized printout of all these foods that, you know, was safe to eat, those that I need to be very cautious, you know, and then those stay away from, you know. So I felt like I had my green light, my red light, and my yellow light, you know. So my yellow light was
Correct.
caution, you know, like you said, and then you get to your red, like you said, your kryptonite. So what I want to ask you is, what are some nutritious and affordable changes we can make to our diet? The holidays, you know, are upon us. And, you know, with the holidays, we all got our own cultural foods that we're so used to eating, you know, that our families, for many people, it's not the holidays if you don't have, you know, certain things on a dinner table. And keeping in mind that some of these foods may be loaded with toxins because, you know, you don't know what you don't know until, like you said, you start researching and coming to better understand certain things. So for a lot of people out there, this may be new to them. For many, it may not be, but I would like us to have a good starting point in terms of what are some affordable changes we can make to our diet. I don't want to scare people, because when people hear about making changes, they think, oh my goodness, it's going to be so expensive. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to be able to enjoy the holidays, you know? So I don't want it to be that kind of thing.
Well, as the first thing I want to tell you is you can either pay now or you can pay later.
That's true.
Somewhat, it's going to cost you more money to eat organic. But if you don't, I honestly believe that one of the reasons we are 37th in the world in health is because of all the toxins that we are eating in our food that is not organic. It's making us sick. It's making our children sick. And so it's a commitment up front, but it is worth it if you can A, get over whatever your pain point is, and B, keep you well because you have eliminated those foods. But there are things that you can do. The first thing I realized was I was wasting a tremendous amount of food. So you buy as close as you can and you use it so that you're not throwing food away. That's your first big saver. The second thing is that you want to go to a local farmer's market if you have it, or I actually have a farm that will, I'm in Los Angeles, I have a farm that will deliver in the middle of Monday night, whatever the current offering from their farm is. If you buy CSA, which is the things that are current that are being grown at your local farmer, it is cheaper. So that's the second thing you want to do. I know that at my farmer's market, I know I'm in LA, so not everybody has the advantage of having fresh produce probably from a farmer's market all year long. But if I go towards the end of the farmer's market, they don't want to take the produce home. So some of them start to mark it down. So that's another way to save by doing organic. Then you start looking at other places in your life where you can save money. If you stop going to Starbucks every morning, and you start making your own green tea in the morning, that saves you a lot of money.
Yes.
You know, there are just little things, and I used to eat most of my meals out, but it's harder for me to control what goes into my food. So I now cook most of my meals. That's also a big money saver. So there are things that you can do that will maintain the quality of your food, keep you away from toxic food, and immensely help your health. And they're important. I have a really good time in the beginning I bought cookbooks that mostly were paleo because I do eat some meat. I buy only pastured meat or wild-caught fish, but so I do buy some paleo cookbooks. And that's where I started. I started following their recipes. Two of my favorites are Danielle Walker, who has incredible holiday treats in her cookbooks, and the other one is Well Fed, which is like a very inventive guide to cooking. She'll give you a meatball recipe and then tell you 12 different ways you can do variations on it to make it different. So that's where I started. But I'm to a point now where I can pull up any recipe and play, do this, not that. So if it has regular flour in it, I'm going to make it with almond flour because regular flour is a problem for me. If it has dairy in it, I can't have dairy. That's a kryptonite for me. So I'll trade out the butter or the shortening for ghee. Now, ghee is dairy, but all the milk solids have been removed from it, so I'm not allergic to it. It's not kryptonite to me. And it's actually really a healthy fat for people with autoimmune disease. If it calls for sugar, I will cut the sugar in half. I will trade it out for either maple syrup, honey, or coconut sugar, and then I'll add just a little bit of stevia if it's not sweet enough, but only for an occasional treat. You just learn to know what foods your body feels good with, and you have to let your body vote, and you trade them out so that you can make really pretty terrific things. I have a killer scone recipe that would make anybody happy, and it's learning how to do that. I have even gotten so crazy that if I need to make a white sauce for something, I now make it out of soaked cashew nuts. I'll soak them for several hours, and then I will steam cauliflower, put all of that into my Vitamix, and then add that to whatever I'm looking to have a cream sauce for. So I made Swedish meatballs the other night using that as my cream sauce. I've even made clam chowder using that and adding some celeriac instead of potatoes to give the consistency like a regular clam chowder. You get inventive, but you have to cook. It's really a key to you having long-term health. And I made up a business card and I put my picture on it, and then I listed all 18 foods that I avoid. If I go to a restaurant, I usually will call them before I show up to make sure they're going to be able to feed me. But when I get there, I give them this card and say, please take this to your chef and find out what he can feed me tonight. I have restaurants who keep my card on file because they love it so much. They wished everybody would do that. And you'd be surprised how accommodating people are if you tell them up front what you have to avoid. I'm not the only person they ever have to go through that with, but they get people where they make something, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you I can't have this. So it goes back to the kitchen over and over again. With my card, it's pretty safe to do. We just went to France. I printed the card up in French. And the friends we were traveling with said the French are arrogant. They're not going to cook around your idiosyncrasies. They could not have been more delightful. They almost all came over and patted me on the shoulder and said, oh, I'm so sorry. But then they went and made me something amazing. And since they do use clarified butter in their cooking, it wasn't that difficult for them to adjust. If I'm going out to somebody else's house for dinner, first thing I did was give my close friends and my family one of my favorite cookbooks. They know I've had health issues, and so they want to cook food, mostly. They want to cook food that will make me happy and will take care of me. So they try to cook around my idiosyncrasies too. But there are some people who don't. So I usually will prepare a dish that I can eat that gives me my protein and my vegetable so that when I go to their house, they know I'm going to be eating what I'm bringing. And they're not offended that I'm not going to be eating what they have. And that works really well because I have learned that holidays, family, it's not about the food, it's about the community. And so I want to be there with them. They want me to be there with them. So what I'm eating isn't the issue.
Bring your own meal with you. I do that sometimes frequently because, sometimes when you're dining out or you're invited to someone's home, they may not really know you like that. So, I'll always bring a dish that they're going to enjoy. And then I bring another one that, I know if I don't eat anything else, I'm going to have something, to eat. Because, for some people, they may not can afford to have certain things, or when they're doing their menu planning, they may just have certain things. And to support them, to make them, to keep them from feeling bad about it, No problem. You know, I always like to bring a dish because it serves a purpose for
Right.
them and also for me.
I've learned to eat something ahead of time that I can eat so that I'm not starving when I get there. If I'm going to a cocktail party, I eat something ahead of time so I'm not um, munching on all the bad things that are floating around that room as appetizers.
Mhm.
I'll eat something sometimes before I go to someone's house for dinner and then just nibble on things that I know I can eat. There are ways around it. We used to have people say, "Aren't you deprived?" And my husband and I laugh because we eat really well and we eat really delicious food. So a lot of times when we sit down for dinner, we'll look at each other and go, I'm so deprived as we dig in, because you can learn to make really delicious food around however you're eating.
Well, they probably, that's their perception, because oftentimes people feel that, you know, when there's certain things you can't eat, oh, you must be deprived. And what they don't realize sometimes is that, no, it just means that, like you said, you eat better because you take care in preparing your meals and to know what goes into your body to make certain that it's nutritious for you. So I think one of the big things is to plan out your holiday eating now, you know? So what
Absolutely.
advice would you give to someone, you know, that may be saying, well, Cheryl, I have a large family, you know, they're so used to certain things. How do I make this a win-win for both of us? Because the one thing that I noted that you had indicated was learn to take recipes and trade out the ingredients that are not good for you or for your family. So you mentioned, as an example, use almond flour instead of wheat flour. So that would be great for people who
Right.
can't have gluten in their diets. Now you also make mention of make mashed potatoes out of cauliflower. What does that taste like?
Well, I have a story about that. My very first coaching experience was with a woman whose husband really loved mashed potatoes. So I told her that she should take cauliflower and steam it. You put it in your blender or your Vitamix with your ghee, with your seasonings, and I use almond milk. And I said, you make sure that it's about the same consistency of mashed potatoes and then see what he says. She called me the next day and she said, he said they were the best mashed potatoes he had ever eaten. He couldn't even tell that he was eating mashed cauliflower. Cauliflower is a pretty amazing vegetable. You can not only make mashed cauliflower out of it, but sometimes when I am hungry and I'm home and I want lunch, I'll steam it and make cauliflower soup out of it, which is kind of a similar thing, only I add some bone broth in it to thin it down. The other thing that's amazing about cauliflower is you can rice it, which means
Okay.
that you bounce it around in your blender or in your Cuisinart until it becomes little tiny pebbles. You can also sometimes buy it that way. I know if for everybody who has a Trader Joe, they now sell it already
Okay.
riced. And it doesn't have a big flavor of its own, but you can make it into any kind of pilaf that you want. I have made it Moroccan using cinnamon and cumin and some raisins. I have made it Italian, adding a little bit of Italian herbs and a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of tomato sauce and maybe some black olives. You can make it Greek, again with the black olives, but using lemon and olive oil and some seasonings that are sort of typically, I use the little petrocelli in it. Um, I serve it a lot to company when they come to our house for dinner. They can't believe it's cauliflower, but it's really delicious no matter which way I make it. So everybody's really happy to try it out. And that's a great way to make a holiday dish special that you can eat.
So what do you recommend for people who may have IBS? Because cauliflower, for example, can be rather gassy. So is there something else one can substitute, you know, to make mashed potatoes?
I would bet that, I don't know if it's gassy or not, but celeriac would probably work.
Okay.
Celeriac has almost the consistency of a potato. And so you could use it and puree it to have it instead of mashed potatoes, and then add your same seasonings you would add to your mashed potatoes. That would work. Celeriac's an interesting vegetable. I'd never eaten it before I got sick, but it's really kind of a cool vegetable to work with.
That's good. Now, What are some other things one can start implement in their diet, to start off small, to try introducing different foods, especially when you have children? Because sometimes children can be picky eaters.
Well, I think it's good to start having your whole family. I've run into a lot of moms who have one child with severe sensitivities and the rest of the family does not. So they're cooking multiple different meals for each time the family gets together. I suggest that you get the whole family eating together to support the child that has the allergies, and they'll grow up healthier. So if you form a bond that everybody's going to eat this way because they're going to grow up bigger and stronger and as superhumans if they eat right, then that's the first place that you set the stage. Um, Kids who start off eating healthy tend to like to continue eating healthy.
That's
If
true.
they have, I would reward them. I made up little buttons that say, I eat clean and I feel great, has a broccoli on it. Those are great for kids because they want to be proud of the way they eat and they want to tell their little friends that they don't eat that way and there's a reason they don't eat that way. And I have my functional doctor has an 8-year-old daughter who is pre-diabetic. She's heavy. And no matter what her mother said to her, she was eating everything in sight. So I had made up refrigerator magnets that say, if you don't take care of your body, where are you planning to live? And I also I have little characters on my book and in my logo, and she loved those. So she had run off with my business card. So I made up my little characters as a refrigerator magnet, and they put those two on their refrigerator. She looked at them for 2 months. And then one morning she looked at her mother and said, I don't understand. If I'm not going to live in my body, where am I going to live? And her mother said, you're not. You're going to be dead. She said she went white. And ever since then, she's eating healthy. She's not eating the junk. She's losing weight. Her sugar numbers are under control. Something that simple made that huge of a difference in that child. So I think
That's
sometimes
amazing.
we underestimate how much a child can understand.
It's also very empowering for the child, to have those images, and so when she
Absolutely.
would when she would look at that, it was like a reminder. A lot of people tend to don't drink enough water. We know tap water is not good for us, and so share with us about the bottled water, but most importantly, show everyone the container that you showed me, that you
Okay.
use.
Let me tell you a little bit about water. People think that Flint, Michigan is an unusual situation. There is lead in water all over this country. What comes out of your
Mhm.
tap is not necessarily very healthy, and you can contact your local water department and find out what's in your water. It was pretty appalling. So that's the first thing. Then you get a filter on your sink so that you get water that is, a lot of those nasty things are cleaned out of it. So that's what I drink. You're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces. I'm not light. I'm still in the process of losing weight. So that was too much water for me. But you should be drinking probably at a minimum 60 ounces of water a day. And I put a little bit of lemon in my water, which also helps it be a little more alkaline and my body accepts it better. So I have a filter on my sink, and every morning I fill up water bottles that look like this. It should be all the same color. I put a different lid on this one from a different bottle. I buy them from Aquasana, which is also where I got my filter.
Okay.
I start off with this, and then if I'm going to be gone for very long, I also have a big jug that I think I bought on Amazon that's stainless steel that I fill up with water, and I take it along to refill these bottles. So I never am in a situation at all where I buy plastic water anymore. Plastic water is 1,200 times more expensive than what comes out of your sink, and the plastic leaches chemicals into the water. But what
Mhm.
makes it even worse is the water in those bottles is not regulated at all, so that it is more likely to be less healthy than what comes out of your tap than what's coming out of your tap. So it's really important that you not be buying all that plastic water. Another way to save money to buy organic is to stop buying water in plastic. These cost $19.99, so they're an expense up front, but think of how quickly that gets amortized by all the plastic bottles that you didn't buy. So it's worth it. And that way you always have water with you, you always have good water with you, and your body will tell you it's happy. My husband used to work for one of the big soda companies that distributed here in LA. He could show you the tap in one of our cities that they got their water out of. It's one of the biggest brands of water. So you don't know what you're drinking when you're buying plastic bottled water, and you don't want to go there.
I want to go back for a minute to about the functional medicine doctors for a minute, because that's something I think that a lot of people are not familiar with. I found that when I started going to see a functional medicine doctor, that I looked at it as if, they got their own toolkit, and they share it with me and expose me to things medically that my regular doctor didn't know about. And I feel that for functional medicine doctors, they're really on the cutting edge of finding out what's causing it. They don't mask it. Like for some doctors, you go in, you got chronic pain. What do? They give you opioids, or they're going to give you something, but that's only masking the pain. They're looking at getting to the root cause of it. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your thoughts?
And they look at it totally differently. Let me just give you one example. Somebody who's a conventional doctor has learned to look at thyroid from what your pituitary is sending the signal to your thyroid. That's the test that they take. That's the reading that they judge whether or not you have a thyroid issue or not. My functional doctor said, it's what happens when it leaves the thyroid and it goes down to your adrenals, because what you really need to be looking at are your T3s and your T4s and how all of that is functioning together. Then we discovered that I did have an issue, and instead of taking a synthetic thyroid, she has an all-natural compounded thyroid that she put me on. That's base is Mexican yam, and you figure out how much thyroid you need the same way you do with the synthetic ones, only now I'm getting a toxin-free, dye-free, healthy, natural way for me to get my thyroid hormones under control. And that's so important for so many functions in the body. They just look at things differently. I took the 23andMe test, which most people, I think, take to find out what's their heritage. Well, it comes with all kinds of data on your DNA, which my doctor, being functional, knew how to read. I don't think my conventional doctor, I think she would have, So I sent her all of this data, and she came back to me and said, you have an anomaly to your DNA where you are not detoxing properly, and that's part of your problem. You have what's called the MTHFR gene, and it means that I don't have enough folate in my body. And so it's true. What goes in my body stays in my body. All those heavy toxic metals from when I was born in Pittsburgh were still in my body. So we did a heavy toxic metal detox. And I now take a pretty enormous amount of folate in order for my body to feel better and function properly. I also was extremely low because of that in vitamin B12. So I spent 2 months getting what's called a Myers cocktail of minerals, which included B12 and vitamin C and magnesium and things that I was just very low on, which boosted up my immune system. And now I take a B12 supplement that helps me stay there. They just look at things through new glasses, and they're looking for specific markers to try to help you feel better. And I think I just mentioned to you, we're excited because we finally think we have found, I say I'm 80% better. I still do have some issues. I still wake up on occasion with a flare. She's excited because she thinks we finally found the root cause. We tested for mold, and I have 3 molds in me, one of which is extremely toxic. I have essential tremor, and she thinks that the mold is the cause of my essential tremor. So I start a mold detox on Sunday. So it's really been an amazing journey. I read, I bring in information for her, she reads, and then my old doctor used to spend on an average 6 minutes with me. My functional doctor spends on an average 40 to 45 minutes with me. It's a
Big difference.
totally different experience. And so she is invested in hearing my story, in listening to what was good or bad since I saw her last, and then adjusting and finding a new direction to take me back to whole health.
Great.
If you can't find a functional doctor, you probably could find a root cause integrative doctor. The practice and the education is slightly different, but they're both sort of approaching the body from the same point of view. But it's really important that you get somebody who wants to find your root cause.
Now, your book, I'm looking at it, it says it feels good to feel good. And I love that title because we all want to feel good. And listening to everything that you shared today, one of the number one things to getting to feeling good is to be accountable for what we are eating and putting into our bodies. And when
Absolutely.
you mentioned,
You have to own your own health.
yes,
You have to own your own health. Don't let a doctor tell you what is or isn't going to happen with your body. You need to dig in. You need to read my book. You need to start researching. You need to own how you feel and what you're going to do. And part of my getting well wasn't just by eliminating toxins in my food. My book talks about toxins that I discovered in every phase of my life. I was horrified. They're not only in my food, and God knows there's plenty of them there, but they were in I was paying a lot of money for expensive cosmetics. They were poison. So I have
yes,
changed out all my cosmetics. I no longer take any over-the-counter drugs at all. My husband gave me a present of stainless steel cooking pans because I was using those ones with that little black layer that made
yeah,
nothing would stick on it. Yeah, I did not want to give that one up. But I finally figured out not only was it putting particles in my body that were making me sick, it was putting particles in the air when I was cooking that were making me sick. I've changed out all my cooking utensils because a lot of those I now use, forget what it's, silicone, which is not toxic. And
right,
actually, they're delightful to use. I then I got the toxic metals out of my body. I got the plastic water bottles gone. All of that stuff is part of what's making you sick. And then in the book, I go into the other things that are the toxins in your head. I talk about stress, because if you don't get your tiger under control and get that stress calmed down, that's a big cause of leaky gut, which is a big cause of autoimmune disease. I go into ants. Anxious negative thoughts, as coined
yes.
by Dr. Amen. And you have to, I grew up with worry. My mother had worry. Ends up I inherited worry. I took a product from Metagenics that calmed that right down. It was an imbalance in my body. I no longer take it because my body is now working in synergy. I talk about toxic lack of sleep. You have to get 7 hours of sleep, because when you're sleeping, your body has a lot of work that it's doing. And if you're not sleeping 7 hours, it can't complete all of its tasks. And then I go into toxic relationships. I had a guy in my life who, when I started getting sick, I woke up one morning and he looked at me and he said, "I don't like it that you're sick. I don't like it
What?
that you're diabetic." I said, "What am I supposed to do with that?" He said, "I don't know," but he liked to eat out at very expensive restaurants every night, and that was not helping me feel better. So out the door he went. After I healed my wounded heart from that, I took a seminar from a woman named Allison Armstrong, learned a lot about men, and her point of view was, you need to put out exactly what you want in a guy and let him come to you. So I went online and I advertised for a guy who was very bright and could keep me on my toes, who was very ethical, and who was willing to go on a get well journey with me. And I'll be darned, the guy that answered lived 10 minutes away from me, and 2.5 years
Wow.
ago I married him. He's lost 70 pounds being with me. So,
Amazing.
and he's a complete partner. So he's a big believer in everything that I wrote in that book, because it's worked for him. He considers himself my first success story as a health coach. So, and then the last thing is, I don't like to exercise. I have never liked to exercise, but I go into toxic lack of movement, and I now do two things. I bought a rebounder, which I call my mini trampoline, and I used to tape VH1, but they don't tape that's not on anymore. So now I tape country western. I've become a little bit of a country western fan, and I just jiggle. on my rebounder to country western for a half an hour, and that clears all the muck out of my lymph system because it's busy. It doesn't have its own pump like your heart, but it's very busy cleaning all the garbage out of your cells, and you got to get it out. That's an important part to feeling better. So I jump on it for a half an hour, and then we joined, my husband does this with me, we joined something called Body and Brain Yoga, which is a Korean form of yoga, and it's resistance, it's enough to get my heartbeat going, and it's stretching. And we do that several times a week, and it is fantastic. My body really is appreciating the fact that I'm doing all this movement, and that's part of getting well. You have to take care of all aspects of your life in order to recover from autoimmune disease.
That's true. And the one thing I want you to consider amongst all that is one day check out and do some Tai Chi if you haven't done that already. I love it. Those gentle, slow movements, they do a lot to unwind you and detox you.
Right.
Yes.
The Korean yoga that we do has kind of their own form as part of their protocol. So it is sort of part of it, but it's not Tai Chi, it's Korean. Similar.
Okay. All right. Well, Cheryl, it has been a pleasure talking with you today with the seasonal solidarity. And I'm going to give you the last word. So tell the audience how they can reach you.
Okay, you can reach me on my website, which is Cheryl with a C, M like Mary, Health, Muse, MUSE.com. You should go to my website because there's a ton of information on there. And if you're interested in getting my newsletters, I do two. I do one with general health tips, and then I do another one called the Golden Broccoli Awards on the cover of the book. And in the book, everybody jokes that I'm the broccoli because of my curly hair and my red lips. So the Golden Broccoli Awards I'm giving to products that are very clean that I want to call out that will solve some problem for you. So it's really valuable to be on my mailing list. Then I am available for coaching either in person here in Monrovia, California, or by Skype. And because I have walked in your shoes, I am a compassionate health coach who can help you. And for one thing, with all the clients, the first hour is free. And I'm telling you, I have people who stand up and hug me because no one has listened to them until I did. So just enjoy yourself and hire me for 1 hour free to share your story. And then we can strategize whether you think I can help you and I think I can help you. And we'll put together a plan where I can get you back on the road to wellness.
And Cheryl, because I value so much what you're doing, and I love the book, and here it is again for everyone to see. What I'm going to be doing, Cheryl, is buying 2 copies of your book, and I'm going to be giving them away in a raffle for the listeners and viewers of the Seasonal Holiday Solidarity Summit. So you will definitely be
if
hearing
you want
from
to buy
me.
2, I'll add 2 more so that you have
Awesome.
4 to give away. Because I think it's really important that everybody reads my book. It's about toxic load. So you can start anywhere you want in that book, but you need to consciously, consistently start getting the toxins out of your life if you want to get your health back on track.
And Cheryl, the other thing in your book that I love is you do list resources, additional resources. And it's a very comprehensive book. It's easy to read, but I commend you. I thank you so much for writing this book because I know it is helping so many people and it's going to continue to help many others.
Thank you. I really want everybody to vote with their dollars. The only way things are going to change is if we stop buying all the cruddy products that are available on the market that are making us sick and we start buying the healthy ones. So I have a big call to action in the back of the book that I want you to be an army of one and stop buying all that stuff and then have us all join together for a better tomorrow, because I'm worried about our kids. As much as I'm worried about all of us who got sick from all of this, I'm worried our kids are already loaded with toxins. And for the first time, they're not going to live as long as we do. So that's terrible. We've got to start cleaning up now.
It is. Thank you for sharing that call to action. That's so vitally important because the children are our future.
The children are our future, and they depend upon us to clean up their world.
They do. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Cheryl. I thoroughly have enjoyed it. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you. It's
day.
really wonderful to be here. Thank you, NECIE.
You're welcome.